Everyone, it's Andre Luck here to share my video here for this week. It's the last topic that I'll cover in this series around sales leadership and creating a winning sales culture. I'll probably do a video again next week where I'll just tie everything back together and recap everything. But this week, I'm going to talk about manager and training programs or leadership training programs. And it's something throughout my career I personally haven't been a big fan of, and had a lot of passionate discussions with some of my team members that wanted us to implement something, wanted us to create something. So I'll explain, some of my skepticism, but I am open to looking at ways that this can be successful. And so I'll talk about ways that I've seen other people implement it well. And if I were to go back and implement one, what would that look like? And then the long-term benefits of having this training program, manager and training, leadership and training program, whatever you want to call it, to be successful within sports. So first, I'm going to talk about some of my skepticisms to it. The first thing is there's typically not executive buy-in. So at the leadership level, a lot of times it's the sales department. They've seen their buddies do it, or they did it at another team, so they want to implement it. And so they kind of force this program, but there isn't understanding across the organization or at the leadership level about why we're doing this. So first and foremost, with everything, you need to get executive buy-in from the top. The second that I've seen is, been a challenge is a lot of team members, a lot of salespeople see this as a resume booster, a resume builder. So when they're looking to take the next step or become a manager eventually in their career, they want to have this on the resume so they could say that they were part of a program or they went through some training program, but not necessarily genuine about wanting to lead and help the people that are underneath them. So that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I didn't think that was authentic, or the motivation was pure there. Another thing that I think it takes away from is people focusing on sales, and I'll share from my own personal experience that I got looped into helping out with more leadership tasks, not a formal program or anything, but it definitely took my eye off of what I needed to do and what they needed me to do, which was sell. And I've seen that also become more of a distraction where it takes some of your top sellers away from hitting their numbers, where this should be an additive opportunity or responsibility. This isn't something that should take them away from their day-to-day opportunities and activities of doing sales outreach and closing sales. The other thing that it never really sat well with me is you take this group of people and it kind of ruffle feathers for no reason. So let's say you have like 10 really strong leaders or potential leaders within your team, but this program is only 3 or 4 people. So you have them all interview, put their best foot forward, put their all into it, and you have to tell 4 or 5 of your best people that they weren't good enough for this. And I'm all for competition and striving for more, but it's not like when Jordan got cut from the varsity team back in high school. Like, this is a program that we're creating. So we're creating this animosity and we're creating this frustration. And I've talked to people who've gone through it. They're like, hey, like, I was told that I wasn't good enough, but then I just rubbed me the wrong way, and I was still expected to put my best foot forward, and I just wasn't in the right headspace or mindset. So I don't see the reason to create that tension if there's not necessarily a bigger purpose to that. So that was another piece. And the last thing for me, I felt that it left out your individual performers. So you have these group of people that should never be in leadership and don't want to actually get in an official formal leadership or management role. And so you don't have anything created for them, and they lose engagement. Eventually, they potentially start looking at other opportunities because they're not being developed like some of the other people that want to be managers. So they almost force themselves into, well, if I want the attention, if I want the development, I have to be a manager one day, and they're probably not equipped or best fit to be a manager. You could get way more impact from them if they just focused on selling. You created some opportunities around developing them as leaders, or future high level sellers, and pouring into them that way too. So that's why I've been skeptic. Those are some of the things that I think I've seen people do wrong, and why I wasn't pushing to implement these at the teams that I've been at and the leadership roles that I've been in. But I do see value if done right. And so what I'm going to talk about now is teams that I've seen do it well and things that they've done well. And if I were to implement it, what I would want to have to make it successful. The first thing, again, executive buy-in, and this can't take people away from selling. This has to be additive. There has to be buy-in that people understand the bigger purpose of this, because you're going to need executives to understand that you're investing time and energy into this program. It's not going to take away from your sales numbers, but you're also going to want other leaders across the organization to be a part of this, people in finance, people in marketing, to also help and develop these future leaders. So as an organization, they really believe in leadership, and that's one of their focuses. Some just focus on, let's get our results, let's hit our numbers, and like, that's it. We come to work, we do our job and we go home. And that's okay too. Just know what culture you're stepping into and what you're signing up for, and make sure that this is part of their values and something that they believe in. But let's say that there is the buy-in, there is the green light. Hey, let's go ahead and do this. This is something we truly believe in and aligns with our values. Ways that it can be successful so that it's impactful for those who are part of this program or in this culture and environment is give them hands-on experience that's actually going to drive the business forward. Don't just give them tasks so that they learn how to be a leader, but what are things that maybe you're stretched too thin to do as a leader that they could take on, and they'll bring more passion and energy to it and bring a different perspective that could drive the business forward. One that's big right now is like you give them a project on AI and how can we implement AI or chat GPT into our sales process. A lot of more tenured leaders don't have the time or haven't invested the time to really think through this. This is a great project to give, a future star, a future seller, where this is going to be the future in the next few years. And what does that look like for us? And start to put ideas on paper. Another one is training. Sometimes it gets stale hearing from the same leader every single week or every single training session. So empower your team to put a different spin on training. And when they see their peers and some of their team leads leading training, sometimes they buy in more because they know that they're invested, and it's not just a mandate from leadership. Like people really care about this that are at their level and they can resonate with and they can really relate to. Another thing I would do is create personalized development plans for these people in this program or in this structure. Everyone has different strengths. Some people are really strong leaders and they could do well with coaching and training. Other people are really strong at selling. Other people are strong with technology and things like that. So give them things that are within their strengths. I think it's great for them to learn and get exposed to a lot of things, but personalize it so it's not, all right, here's the template, here's the generic plan that we have, but how is this going to help benefit that person, their strengths, and what's going to help them get to the next step within their career. And as I mentioned before, there needs to be buy-in outside of just the sales team. So have them have mentors in other departments. Have them have mentors at other organizations that you have close relationships with, like a chamber of commerce or maybe one of your clients that works at a business. Give them exposure to outside your organization and get them around other great leaders so that they continue to grow and develop and bring some of those best practices and ideas to what you do day to day and everything like that. When you step into leadership, it's more than just knowing how the ticket sales department works. So give them practical exposure to things that happen outside of ticket sales. Let them understand how finance and sales work together. Let them look at and work on, or at least be a part of understanding how marketing plans are put together, how business strategy is put together, how do we come up with pricing and campaigns and things like that. So they have full exposure. So when they do step into that leadership role, hopefully with you, they have a better understanding of what that looks like. The other thing I think is important is to have a path that's clearly defined for their growth into management or a leadership type role. Because if you're investing this time and energy into them, at the end of it, you want to reap the rewards and the benefit. If there's not even a path that they could step into leadership and you're putting all this time and energy into them going somewhere else, sometimes that's a wasted investment. And I'm all for developing future leaders and making people stronger. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that it aligns with your growth path and there's opportunities for them to grow so that they can be leaders for you all. And they're going to want to as well. They put all this time and energy. They don't just want to go somewhere else. They probably want to stay internally and have a path that they can grow and develop in it within. And then the biggest piece for me is having development for the whole team, not just a select few. Mentioned how that rubs me the wrong way. Um, Even if you have younger sellers, like there are some future stars who maybe your first, second year within your team, your department, they want to be developed too. They want opportunities to learn and grow. So maybe it's more peer groups, developments, book clubs, personal growth, things like that. Maybe they're not actively leading training sessions, but they should be developed as well. So it's really creating a culture where it's just all about leadership, growth, development at all levels, your top people, your junior people, some of your struggling people, because they need personal growth and development. You can pair them up with maybe some of these mentors and leaders, and they can help bring them up so that that middle 80% of your team, which is really crucial, they're getting brought up versus being brought down and they're staying engaged and everything like that. And then those that maybe don't want to step into management and leadership, you're giving them opportunities to build out strategies, look at ways that we can drive higher revenue, maybe partner with corporate partnerships and other areas where you can get higher dollar revenue opportunities because they're going to be a high level seller and they need to know what that looks like and get that exposure early in their career and not be forced into a manager role. So those are the ways that I've seen it do well. And if I were to implement it, things that I would focus on. And then the overall impact of that is one, you're going to have that next level of leaders ready to go. Ideally, your entire leadership stays, but that's not realistic. Either they step up and move into other roles, or they move to another organization. Every time I took a step up, I had to move to another organization. So you want to make sure that you have people ready to take that next step when someone leaves. It is so difficult to get people externally to come join your team at a leadership level that are the right fit. And maybe you can get people from out of sports, but that's even a challenge too, because now they're taking a pay cut. They can potentially work less hours outside of sports and they're a little more advanced in their career. So the allure of working in sports maybe isn't there like it was when you first started out coming right out of college or early on in your professional career and development. So making sure that you have that pipeline when people step up, and this is a great way to create that and do that. The other thing is it creates higher engagement. So not to say people don't enjoy their day-to-day job, but when people are invested in and they know that their leadership is developing and growing them, like they're feeling stretched and they're more engaged. You keep them longer. You don't have as much turnover. You have better retention of your staff. So the impact of that, where you get that consistency year over year over year of someone building up their book of business and developing more relationships, you're not continuously turning over the team, you're going to see a huge revenue impact from that as well. And then if they're doing things that are driving business results and you have them focused on leadership opportunities that are going to move the business forward, not just, hey, let's check the box and say that you're doing leadership stuff, it should lead to higher revenue performance and higher results on the bottom line because they're doing things that are going to move the business forward. And now you have all these people invested, all these people engaged who are looking at ways and working with each other to move the business forward. And at the end of the day, you're going to have more success with that. So in closing, really for me, it comes down to the intentions of the program and does it align with the greater vision of your executive team and the organization? And if not, let's just call it what it is. Doesn't mean we're not still developing people. And when people come like, hey, we need to create a training program, I'm like, well, if you just want to lead, like we can talk about leadership. Like I'll take you to lunch once a month and we can talk about it. But at the end of the day, if you're going to formalize it, make sure the intentions are pure and the people that are part of it all are aligned and there's a clear vision for what the goal of this is and how this benefits the organization. It helps us drive more revenue and also retain our staff. And there just has to be an understanding because it's going to be an investment of time. This is additive to your typical day to day. So the reps that are part of it have to be invested to commit more time before work, during lunch, after work. The leadership has to be committed to investing time because now, outside of chasing aggressive sales targets, you're building out training and development programs and things like that and looking for ways to keep your staff engaged, which is very difficult to do because there's a lot of hours that you work in sports. So adding this on. So really assessing the value and the benefit. Maybe you bring an external party in to kind of help you with this so that you're not stretching yourself way too thin because sports sales leaders are already stretched too thin. So would love to get feedback on that. Next week, I'm going to take all the topics that I've talked about over the past 7, 8 weeks and kind of wrap this whole thing up around sales leadership within sports and creating a winning sales culture. So as always, appreciate you tuning in and we'll see you again next week.